Hello there, freaks and geeks. Welcome to another edition of Up Your Geek Spotlight. I'm your host, Lamar Booker, and on today's show, we're going to be diving into the mind of director Duncan Skiles, best known for the Clovehitch Killer, as he returns with his latest film, Neighborhood Watch. Starring Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Jack Quaid, Neighborhood Watch is a gripping story about trust, mental health, and unlikely friendships. It premieres in theaters and on demand April 25th. In our conversation, Duncan shares his inspirations, his experience shooting on an indie schedule, and what audiences can expect from this powerful new story. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one. Let's get into it. Exploring Neighborhood Watch. So I got to see it. I really enjoyed it. Actually, pretty good film. Jack Quaid was like crazy good in this. So Duncan, so what drew you to Sean Farley's script for Neighborhood Watch, and what is it about this story that resonated with you?
I was drawn in by the relationship between the two main characters. I thought it was unique and heartwarming without being overly sentimental. And I liked that they both were characters who had sort of lost their value and their role in society, outcast. And they both found what they needed. They were looking something to give their lives meaning, and they found what they needed in each other. And I was really drawn to Ed, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. His non-PC approach, like his bluntness, and I thought that was like kind of an interesting dynamic, right? Because Simon's probably just been handled with kid gloves throughout his process of dealing with his mental illness. And he kind of needed somebody to give him some tough love. He kind of needed like a dad-like figure to be more joking with him, that he seemed to respond in a way that was more treated just like a regular person. And not treated like a guy with a mental illness. So it was the journey that they went through together that I responded to.
So the film centers on this unlikely partnership between the two, Simon and Ed here. So how did you approach developing their complex relationship on screen?
Well, the credit there goes to Jeff and Jack for their awesome performances that were achieved in a short amount of time. We didn't have any time for rehearsal. Fortunately, they had a working relationship. They collaborated on The Boys. They were in Rampage together, although I don't think they had any scenes together in that movie. But they knew each other, and they're pros. They're really good at what they do. So there's a certain level of chemistry that you can't fake.
Right.
And so we got lucky with that. But then the rest of it is just their talent. And it took some kind of feeling through it the first few days of the shoot. I remember on day 3, we were all kind of like, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what's going on here, because it is a difficult, delicate task to portray somebody with schizophrenia, right? And so Jack and I had a lot of conversations about, how exactly that gets expressed. And it's not just the schizophrenia. It's something called tardive dyskinesia, which is a side effect of the medications, and that is what's behind the facial tic. And then something called schizophasia, and that's what's behind what's called word salad, where he ejects like a meaningless phrase every once in a while. So we talked a lot about that and like how he walks and everything. And then, we just had kind of had to fine tune it as we went. And the shooting schedule was such that I think we shot that eye contact scene we shot that on the first day, where they're in the car, Ed's car, and Ed's trying to teach him how to make eye contact. And I remember after doing a few takes, Simon was coming across as like a little bit like vulnerable puppy dog, and I was like, what if you're a little bit more like pissed off that he's telling you to do this thing that you've probably tried a million times before, and like maybe if you're like a little bit more resentful of like, oh, I'm just supposed to be able to do this. And Jack really latched onto that, and it rounded out Simon. And then I think a key scene for like when we started to feel Ed's character was the poker game. He's alone and he's going all in, and it was like that reaction when he loses all of his money. There was something just like some kind of release that Jeff had there that felt to me like super sad and vulnerable. and got to the heart of what was going on with Ed. And I remember another scene like in that same setting in Ed's house when Ed is showing him the like thing with the license plate, how it could have been like a 5 instead of an S. He's going to the license plate website, and then he's like, all right, we're gonna look this up and then we'll go to the next step. And then Jack was like, so you're gonna help me, and then Jeff is like, I didn't say that. And that was feeling like it was kind of coming together about what their relationship was about. And that's in that stage. They kind of like, it starts off with Ed picking on Simon, but then Simon is able to turn the tables and pick on him a little bit, like with that stuff like, I wanted to be a guard. I think.
Yeah. He's then, like, I wasn't a guard.
Yeah. And then where he's like making fun of him because he can't hear. I think you have a hearing problem. So they find equal footing so they can have that banter with each other. Fun times, man. Fun times working that out. Good. And, yeah.
The casting choices. So Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Jack Quaid, they kind of bring unique energies to their roles. So what was the casting process like? Were you a part of that? And how did you know that they would write for these characters?
Jack was a fan of Clovehitch, and I thought he'd be perfect for Simon, and I took it to him. And then Jeffrey Dean, I was less familiar with because I hadn't seen Walking Dead. But when he was suggested by one of the producers, I went and checked out a bunch of his stuff, and I saw this like he's very handsome and rugged, obviously, but he also has these like really big expressive eyes, like these kind of like, sad eyes. And I thought that kind of combination of like the rugged manliness with the like his eyes are amazing. And then he had a great range of stuff too. A lot of people know him for Negan now, but he has a deep catalog, and started out in comedies in his feature career. And I wanted to I love bringing established actors out and giving them something to really chew on and showing what else they can do.
I became a fan of his as John Winchester, so in Supernatural.
Oh, nice. I haven't seen that either.
So that's kind of like where his like, I was like, oh man, I love this guy. So tell me about the film's, there was an evolution with the title. The original title was Nowhere Men. What prompted the change to that, to Night Neighborhood Watch, and how does that to better reflect the film's themes?
The distributor, RLJE, they changed the title after we delivered it. And the reasoning was that Nowhere Men didn't feel genre enough. And then they floated it to some streamers, and the consensus came back that Neighborhood Watch was their favorite, and that's Hollywood, baby. I've come to terms with it now. I like it now. I mean, at first I associated it with the movie, the Ben Stiller movie that was called The Watch, and I think a lot of people I talked to there, but that's like ancient history at this point. I thought they were leaning into the comedy aspect with Neighborhood Watch. Neighborhood Watch sounds like a comedy title to me.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is it's fine because I do consider it a comedy. But then other people, it works for them as a thriller title. So I don't know everything. Everybody's got a different perspective, and I'm happy to be here.
So you've mentioned that you were drawing inspiration from the 80s, from like Midnight Run and Something Wild. So how did these films influence your approach and tone and storytelling with this film?
I hadn't seen Midnight Run before I made this movie, and it was one of Sean's favorites, Sean Farley, the writer, and one of his key references. So I went and checked that out, and I was impressed by just how solid it was. It had not this the filmmaking was not overly flashy, but it was just like the camera was in the right position at the right time, and it was in service to the story and the characters in that movie are so great. It's this relationship of this odd pairing that they hate each other at first, and by the end they're like allies. And the filmmaking had faith in that. It had faith in the story and in the character. It was also like really great side characters, which I love. I try to find in the casting and in the writing to treat secondary characters as fully fleshed out people, and to cast memorably for that, to kind of like create like this whole world that you may only see like little glimpses of. That movie had that. Midnight Run had that. Alexander Payne does that incredibly well.
Building the tension here, I see that the film balances suspense with the character-driven moments. How did you maintain this balance throughout the narrative?
Well, I just shot the script, which happens to be good, and it was just intuitive, feeling it out. I came into it kind of thinking I need to have like a little bit of a light touch, because to me, it's a fun ride, right? It's not really about human trafficking. And the abduction is somewhat of a MacGuffin. It's like a reason for these guys to come together. And so my choices were, in terms of the suspense part of it, to kind of like keep it fun. And in terms of the character relationships, to treat that seriously, or take the characters' problems seriously. In terms of like, Simon really cares about finding this girl, right? And Ed really cares about being like a successful cop in this situation. Like that, they want that badly. And so just always keeping that in mind, right? So, but like, not getting too gory, not getting too violent. Costume choices, the nemesis, the villain, he's wearing like a turtleneck and a leather jacket and stuff like that. So a lot of those choices like keep it kind of light, but then just like staying in tune with what the characters need, what they want, so that there's hopefully an emotional payoff.
So was it purposely done to have the story kind of go, it was like they were hinging on that he was hallucinating or not seeing what was actually happening, and I guess the audience is to believe that a little bit, and I was the kind of almost fooled until the villain did show up, and it was this person's real. So because it did have me going for it, but I was like, this could be one of those twists, like this guy is really like but there was an interesting, no spoilers, like stuff like when they got towards the end of the film there, that was just like what just happened. And so
you mean the well, I guess if there's no spoilers I can't say it.
well, when they were in the house. So
yeah,
I'll
the
just
part
say
where
that.
the part where the two characters are literally like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting there. I kept, as they're going through this, and I'm thinking, I'm like, they're missing something. So yeah, that was a cool part. I really felt like it had me. There was the scene in the junkyard too. That I was like, oh man, like what if somebody was there, and I don't know. So it's like it did a great job at playing that to the audience. So it had me fooled. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think that's a fun, like with Clovehitch, it was like, I wasn't really going for a big twist. It was kind of like, but audiences are so trained to expect a twist that you can kind of play with that, right? It's like a not twist is something of a twist these days. It's more like reveals, the movie is very well, Sean did an incredible job of pacing out new information and reveals to keep the narrative going. And Sean, by the way, this was his first produced script, and he's a hidden gem. And I hope that he gets a ton more work, because his other stuff is also great. We collaborated on another script, and he's super talented.
Yeah, I do too. I really enjoyed this film, and the story kind of weaved together really well too. So I think the pacing was great. It held my attention the whole time. I was at the edge of my seat trying to figure out what's going on, and did a great job.
Good.
So you started out with comedy shorts, right?
Yeah.
And you've transitioned into like thrillers. So how's your background influence your approach in directing suspenseful narratives?
There's a lot of shared DNA in between comedy and thrillers or horror. It's really imperative to get a reaction out of the audience. And I think everything that I do is going to be somewhat funny because that's just my sensibility. I have a dry sense of humor, and I like mining comedy out of unexpected situations. But I just realized I don't want to do straight comedies. It's too hard. It's like the hardest thing to do because if people aren't laughing, you're failing.
Yeah.
And I like suspense. That's the kind of stuff that I realized I was drawn to. And so I started to transition when I did Clovehitch. I just started to like really pay attention to what I was responding to. And at the time it was like true crimey type of stories, and I'm still going in that direction. But I think, you know, this one is like a little bit lighter. It's definitely lighter, and that's where I want to be right now, is in this kind of like fun suspense. You know, I want to sell the thrills and have genuine like edge of your seat moments, but I also want it to be fun.
Yeah, it was a nice break from that type of like the kind of the darker, but also had this light tone, and also the break from the kind of the twisty stories. Like sometimes you want there to just kind of be a conclusion where you're not like, come on,
right.
really.
Right.
But this was great. So your film kind of delves into the psychological aspects of these characters. What draws you to these internal explorations?
Well, I related to Simon because I that sense of like you believe something so strongly and nobody is on board with it, and you kind of like have to convince everybody around you. I got heavy into being vegan like 10 years ago, and I felt at the time that it was like a moral emergency what was happening to animals, and I needed to do something about it. And I kind of ran into a lot of like apathy from people I was close to, and that was something I processed, and I'm in a different place now, but that was like an eye-opening experience in terms of like the isolation of like, I feel like something is happening here that's very wrong, and I need to tell people about it, and nobody seems to care. And then the other thing about Simon is that his mental illness, when I researched it, I related to the idea that like people with schizophrenia, like they are not their disease, they have a disease, but there is a self, there is a whole self inside them that is sort of is aware of what's going on. And this whole idea of voices is something that we all deal with, in terms of like you have like a narrator in your head, and it's not to the degree that it's like embodied, and there aren't multiple of them, but everybody has an interior voice that we're dealing with. It's like throwing insecurities at you, you know, it's throwing regret and reminding you of dumb shit that you said. And Simon, you know, his inner voice, it's his dad just like cutting him down, you know? And a lot of people, I deal with that, you know, the inner voice that for some reason it's like working against us. And I think it's cool to have a character that kind of like overcomes that.
Couple things here. So can you share any advice that you would give to an emerging directors looking to tell compelling character-driven stories like this?
It comes down to the script. Gotta have a good script. If you don't have one, learn how to write. And I mean, even in this case, it was so hard to get this made. I was really surprised how hard it was to get this movie made, because I thought the script was like the best one I'd read in years. But for me, it really just comes down to the quality of the characters and the quality of the story. And that will always have value. You know, tell a story that people respond to, that affects people emotionally. And it's important not only as something that you can like get made, but something that can sustain you through the process. If you're really interested in it, then no matter how many times you tell a story, no matter how many times you look at the same thing through every permeation of pre-production, shooting, and post, it's still interesting if it's got that thing that like lights your fire. So write good stories, and good luck.
Can you share any details about what you're working on next? Any new genres or stories that you're excited to explore?
Yeah, Sean and I collaborated on a script. We collaborated on the story, and he wrote the script, and it's called Hauntville. And it's like a PG-13 Halloween story, because I have kids now, and I'm thinking about what am I going to show them around Halloween. And then the list of options that are like fun, scary, without being traumatizing, it's pretty small. So I wanted to add something to that canon. And this is a story about a guy who is obsessed with Halloween. Like he's like Clark Griswold, except for Halloween instead of Christmas. And he turns his house into a haunted house every year. And this year, I don't want to give it away. It's good. It's called Hauntville. It's expensive though, so I might need I need somebody to, write me a fat check for that one. And then the other one is that I'm working on now is another like serial killer mystery called Funny Bunny.
Nice.
And I'm very excited about that one as well.
Nice. I'm excited now that you've told me. So looking back on this film, what are you most proud of, and what do you hope that audiences take away from the story?
I am most proud of delivering a film that is not only coherent, but seems to have emotional resonance with people who watch it. Because we were up against it, we shot it in 18 days in a place I'd never been to before, 3.5 weeks of pre-production. It was very challenging. And, I knew that I couldn't screw it up too bad with the quality of the script and the quality of the cast. And so I'm proud to have made a film that I think represents that original appeal of the script that I responded to. I hope people just come away with the value of human connection, and whether it's your family or your neighbor, I think it's really good to pay attention to the people around you in your immediate surroundings and just like listen and connect.
Awesome. Duncan, thank you for joining us here on Up Your Geek Spotlight. Neighborhood Watch premieres April 25th in theaters and on demand. Be sure to check it out. Until next time, stay geeky.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you. All right, freaks and geeks, that's going to do it for this edition of Up Your Geek Spotlight. If you enjoyed this interview, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and smash that notification bell so you never miss any of our content. A huge thank you goes out to Duncan Skiles again for joining us today. And don't forget, Neighborhood Watch hits theaters and on demand April 25th. Now stick around and check out the official trailer for Neighborhood Watch coming up next. Until next time, stay geeky.
Sir? Hold your horses!
Sir, I need a ride.
Why don't you go to the neighbor on the other side of you? Because maybe they'll give you...
She had light hair. She was about 20.
What about the man? Eyes, hair, anything?
I didn't really get a good look at his face.
We'll call you.
I know you can hear me!
You live next door, Screw Loose.
Wait, weren't you like a cop or something?
Or something.
Why don't you show me where you saw whatever it is you think you saw?
I saw a woman get shoved into a white van.
You think she was a working girl?
I don't know where she works.
Oh my God.
Follow my lead.
I am Lieutenant Mitchum, Homewood Police Department. This is my partner.
We're cops.
Just let the police handle this.
By the time they figure that out, she'd be dead. It's her.
The man has stolen plates.
What's your move now, tough guys?
Improvise?
We don't even know if these people exist.
We're too late.
She's gone.
What happened?
She was attacked.
What am I supposed to do? Give him a perm?
What do we do? Just knock on the door?
Yeah, we start with that.
All this for us? Color me flattered.